Welcome back to the Exposure History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. Brigitte Bardot strolling through Saint-Tropez in 1959, effortlessly redefining style with her iconic charm. Bardot was a French actress and model. She became a symbol of freedom and beauty in post-war Europe, turning Saint-Tropez into the escape it's still known as today. Two Chinese actors were photographed by Lia Fong, one of China's first and most celebrated photographers in the late 19th century. Known for his ability to blend tradition with the new art of photography, Fong created rare portraits like this, preserving the elegance of stage costumes and the cultural spirit of his time. Elizabeth Taylor by the sea in 1959, radiating elegance in a simple white swimsuit. By this time, she was already one of Hollywood's brightest stars, known for her violet eyes and unforgettable roles. Just a year later, she would win her first Academy Award. A sight of Atlantic City in 1905, where families and visitors strolled along the boardwalk in their finest attire. The boardwalk, first built in 1870, was already becoming a symbol of leisure and modern seaside culture, attracting people from across the country to enjoy the ocean air and vibrant social life. The Stockholm Telephone Tower was built in 1890, carrying around 5,500 lines across the city. Built to manage the rapid growth of telecommunication, it became one of Stockholm's most striking landmarks. Before underground cables, the tower's web of wires symbolized a new age of connection, linking thousands of homes and businesses through the air. A young Indian prince poses in full ceremonial regalia, adorned with jewels, a turban, and miniature weapons across his chest. Such portraits were often taken in the late 19th and early 20th centuries to display royal heritage and authority. The original Ronald McDonald, introduced in the early 1960s, bore little resemblance to the familiar clown we know today. Played by Willard Scott, he wore a tray of food as a hat and had a cup for a nose. Though unusual, this quirky beginning marked the start of one of the world's most famous mascots. Plastic surgery in 1916, during the First World War, when pioneering doctors began reconstructing the faces of injured soldiers. These early procedures were groundbreaking. Though results were limited by the technology of the time, they laid the foundation for modern reconstructive surgery and gave wounded men a chance to face life again. An unusual sight from the early 20th century: a hippo pulling a cart. Though hippos are among the most dangerous animals, they were sometimes trained for entertainment and circus acts. Their immense strength and size made them striking to see and harness, even if far from their natural role in the wild. Charlie Chaplin at Wall Street in 1918 lifted above a massive crowd while promoting Liberty Bonds during World War I. Already the world's most famous silent film star, Chaplin used his influence beyond the screen, helping raise millions for the war effort and showing how celebrity power could rally public support. Department store workers on their lunch break around 1900. Sitting on a rooftop ledge, they pause from the busy rhythm of the shop floor. At the time, department stores were booming across cities, offering new opportunities for women in the workforce and reshaping modern retail culture in ways that still influence shopping today. A mother and daughter sewing with a Singer machine in 1925. Singer revolutionized home sewing by making machines widely available and reliable, changing how families made and mended clothes. For many households, sewing was both a necessity and a skill passed through generations, blending practicality with the quiet rhythm of daily life. A rare photograph from 1875 is often described as depicting witches. The women, dressed in dark clothing and wide-brimmed hats, pose with props like a broom and feather fans, symbols long tied to folklore. Whether staged for novelty or belief, the image reflects how fascination with witchcraft lingered in the Victorian imagination. A couple gracefully dances on ice skates at Whitestone Pond, Hampstead, London, in 1933. The pond, a popular winter gathering spot, often froze solid enough for skating, drawing locals to enjoy the season. This photo captures the mix of elegance and joy that made outdoor skating a cherished tradition in London's colder months. California in the 1970s was the golden age of skating, where rollerbladers and skateboarders turned boardwalks into playgrounds. The culture blended style, music, and sport, making places like Venice Beach iconic. Skating was more than recreation. It was self-expression, capturing the carefree energy of a generation chasing freedom under the sun. A Polish resistance couple during their wedding in the midst of the Warsaw Uprising, August 1944. Surrounded by war and destruction, they chose to celebrate love and unity. Many fighters of the uprising were young, risking everything for freedom, and moments like this showed resilience and humanity even in the darkest times. Women boxing on a rooftop in 1938, surrounded by friends who watch and cheer. During this era, women's boxing was gaining attention, though still considered unconventional. Images like this capture both the playful spirit and the breaking of social norms, as women embraced strength, competition, and new roles in public life. A mother homeschooling her children in Transylvania, Louisiana, 1937. In rural America, access to formal education was often limited, especially for black families during the segregation era. Many parents took it upon themselves to teach at home, turning kitchens and living rooms into classrooms, ensuring their children had the chance to learn and dream. A young gentleman in 1910 dressed in the height of Edwardian fashion. His straw boater hat, tailored suit, and pocket watch chain reflect the style of an era that prized elegance and detail. Men's fashion of the time balanced formality with a touch of leisure, capturing a world on the edge of change. A Japanese commuter train in the early morning, captured decades ago. Exhausted workers fill every seat and aisle, resting before another long day. Post-war Japan's rapid economic growth demanded grueling hours, and trains became both transport and resting places, reflecting the discipline and sacrifice that fueled the nation's remarkable recovery. Racing cars on the rooftop track of the Fiat Lingotto factory in Turin, Italy, 1923. The factory was one of the most advanced of its time, with a unique design where finished cars were tested on a rooftop circuit. It became a symbol of Italian innovation, blending industry with daring modern architecture. Che Guevara and Fidel Castro fishing off the Cuban coast in 1960. Just a year after the Cuban Revolution, the two leaders often appeared together, symbolizing their close alliance. Beyond politics and speeches, moments like this showed their camaraderie and how they shaped both the image and direction of revolutionary Cuba. Arnold Schwarzenegger is exploring New York City for the first time. Long before Hollywood fame and politics, he was a young Austrian bodybuilder chasing big dreams. Captured with a camera in hand and wonder in his eyes, this moment reflects the start of a journey that would make him one of the world's most recognizable figures. Theodore Roosevelt's diary entry on February 14, 1884, was on the day his wife Alice and his mother both died. Marked with a large X, he wrote, "The light has gone out of my life." The tragedy left a deep scar, shaping Roosevelt's character and future path in profound and lasting ways. Franz Xaver Freiherr von Vera, a German flying ace during World War II, pictured with his unusual companion, a pet lion cub named Simba. Known for his daring escapes as a prisoner of war, von Vera was the only captured Luftwaffe pilot to successfully return to Germany, making his story as unique as his choice of pet. A mailman with his motorcycle in 1915, a time when motorbikes were transforming postal delivery. Before cars became common, motorcycles allowed carriers to cover greater distances quickly, replacing horse-drawn methods. This image reflects both the dedication of postal workers and the early embrace of technology that sped up communication in the modern age. Louise Brooks in the 1920s, a defining icon of the Jazz Age. Known for her sharp bob haircut and striking screen presence, she rose to fame as a silent film star. Brooks became a symbol of the flapper era, embodying independence and modernity, and her influence on fashion and cinema continues to endure. In 1946, airline uniforms reflected a new post-World War II style, with the reintroduction of nylon stockings. Seen here are Trans-Canada Airlines flight attendants posing proudly in their updated uniforms. Nylon, once rationed during the war, returned as a symbol of modern fashion and practicality, reshaping women's wardrobes across the aviation industry and beyond. The Los Angeles Public Library's Bookmobile for the Sick in 1928. Staff pushed carts of books through hospitals, bringing literature to patients confined to their beds. This service reflected the growing belief in reading as both education and comfort, making libraries not just centers of knowledge, but also sources of healing and hope. Two women leave a London polling station in 1929, ballots in hand. This was Britain's first general election where women voted on equal terms with men after the 1928 Equal Franchise Act. Newspapers called it the flapper election. Fashion met politics that day as young voters helped shape a new era of democratic life. Claude Monet in his Giverny studio, 1923, painting his vast water lilies panels. Photo by Henri Manuel. Near this time, Monet underwent cataract surgery, which changed how he saw color and light. He envisioned these works as an endless garden view, later installed as immersive murals in Paris's Musée de l'Orangerie. A tiny car zips along Boulevard Saint-Germain, Paris, 1950. Photo by Maurice Zalewski. Post-war France saw many microcars and homemade vehicles as fuel and money were scarce. This left bank street was also a cultural center, near cafes where Sartre and de Beauvoir debated ideas, so everyday scenes like this carried the spirit of a city rebuilding. Laundry day with a new wringer washer, early 20th century. Machines like this Maytag replaced hand-scrubbing tubs and saved hours of work. Maytag's first washers appeared in 1907, with electric models by 1911. Wringer washers ruled kitchens and porches for decades until automatic washers in the 1950s finally took over. A young artist in Montmartre, 1946, sketching the view toward Sacré-Cœur. Paris was emerging from war, and the hill streets again filled with painters and music. The Basilica, finished in 1914 and consecrated in 1919, rises above as a symbol of endurance, while a new generation rebuilds life and art. 20-year-old Dolly Parton in 1966, early in her career, before she became a country music legend. This was the year she released her first single, Dumb Blonde, which hinted at her sharp wit and talent. Just 2 years later, she would join Porter Wagoner's show, launching her into stardom. Laurel and Hardy in 1929 captured in their trademark sailor outfits for one of their early comedy films. By this time, the duo had already become Hollywood's most beloved slapstick team, mixing physical humor with perfectly timed expressions. Their charm and chemistry made them icons of silent cinema and early talkies alike. A steelworker balances high above New York in 1931, appearing to touch the tip of the Chrysler Building while working on the Empire State Building. At its peak, over 3,000 men, many of them immigrants and Mohawk ironworkers, helped build the skyscraper in just over a year, making it the tallest building in the world at the time. A Sailor in Drag, photographed in 1906. Studios often staged playful portraits like this, and on ships, men frequently performed female roles in crew theatricals. In the Edwardian era, such images appeared on postcards and in albums, mixing humor with curiosity. It's a glimpse of off-duty life and early gender play in popular culture. Grandma patches her grandson's only pair of pants, 1907. Clothes were precious then. Families mended, reused, and handed down garments rather than buying new ones. A small sewing kit was as common as a cooking pot. The boy's patient pose across her lap shows care, routine, and how thrift shaped everyday life. an Italian monk in a funeral cowl, photographed in 1892. These shrouds, often made from rough cloth, were worn to symbolize humility and equality in death. The cowl covered the entire body, hiding status and identity, reminding all that in the end, every soul returned to the same silence. Fashion in 1909, a wide feathered hat, lace gown, high waist, and long tassels. This was the late Edwardian look as designers like Paul Poiret raised the waist and relaxed the corset, soon leading to the hobble skirt. Feathered hats were so popular that they helped spark early bird protection campaigns in the 1900s. Sea Captain, 1901. He stands by the wheel in an oilskin coat and sou'wester hat, pipe in hand. Captains of this era steered between sail and steam, reading stars and charts while early wireless radio was just emerging. Weather ruled every decision, and experience kept ship and crew safe at sea. Blacksmiths, 1926, a gelatin silver print by German photographer August Sander. Shot for his landmark project People of the 20th Century, it documents trades across Weimar Germany. The men stand by their anvil with hammers and tongs, faces marked by heat and labor. Sander's typologies became a foundation of modern documentary portraiture. A stylish man in the 1930s, stepping from a radio cab in a double-breasted suit and fedora. Wide lapels, cuffed trousers, and polished shoes defined the decade's look. Even during the Depression, men followed Hollywood's lead, favoring sharp tailoring and strong shoulders, a clean, confident style that still shapes menswear today. 4 ballerinas performed daringly on the edge of a skyscraper in New York, 1925. With the city skyline behind them, they balanced in full costume, smiling as if it were a stage. Publicity stunts like this were common in the Jazz Age, blending art, thrill, and spectacle to capture attention. Rudolph Eickemeyer Jr.'s 1902 portrait of Evelyn Nesbit. Draped in a kimono on a polar bear rug, she was one of America's first celebrity models and a famed Gibson girl. Just a few years later, Nesbit would be at the center of the 1906 Stanford White murder scandal, sealing her place in pop culture history. Robert Benoit in his Delage 1500, 1927. That year, he dominated Grand Prix racing, winning 4 major races and the European Championship for Delage's 15S8 car. A hero beyond the track, Benoit later joined the French resistance during the World War II and worked with the SOE. He was captured and executed in 1944. British and German soldiers paused the fighting for a football match in no man's land, Christmas 1914. During the unofficial Christmas truce, enemies swapped gifts, sang carols, and buried their dead. The brief peace spread along parts of the Western Front, a rare moment of shared humanity amid the first winter of World War I. Young men hanging out in the U.S., 1940s. They lean against a storefront, sipping sodas and eating lunch, their clothes reflecting the casual style of the decade: sweaters, collared shirts, and rolled sleeves. Coca-Cola ads in the background show how youth culture and brand identity were already shaping American life during this era. Lillian Tashman and Gladys Feldman in 1919. Tashman, who later became a Hollywood actress known for her wit and style, was then starting her career on stage. Feldman, a fellow performer, shared the nightlife scene with her. Their bold fashion and confidence reflected the energy of post-war America stepping into the Jazz Age. Pam Grier in the 1970s, a decade that made her a star. Known as the Queen of Blaxploitation, she headlined films like Coffy and Foxy Brown, breaking barriers for black actresses in Hollywood. Her bold style, natural afro, and fearless roles turned her into a cultural icon and symbol of empowerment. A Day at the Office in the 1920s. 2 women stand by their typewriters, holding papers with quiet confidence. This was a time when more women were entering clerical work, reshaping offices once dominated by men. Their presence reflects the growing independence and professional roles women claimed after World War I. Lieutenant John F. Kennedy in the South Pacific, 1943. He commanded patrol torpedo boat PT-109. When a Japanese destroyer sliced it in two, Kennedy guided the survivors to shore, towing a wounded sailor by a life jacket strap clenched in his teeth. For this rescue, he received the Navy and Marine Corps Medal. Young Stephen Hawking at his Oxford graduation in 1962. At just 20, he completed his degree in physics, already showing the brilliance that would shape his career. Though his health struggles soon began, this moment marked the start of his path toward becoming one of the most celebrated scientists of the 20th century. Myrna Loy in the 1920s, early in her career, before Hollywood crowned her the Queen of Sophistication. She began with silent films, often cast in exotic roles, but by the 1930s, she became a star of witty comedies like The Thin Man. Her elegance and intelligence made her one of cinema's most enduring icons. A baker in Italy, 1957, skillfully balances a massive tray of fresh bread on his head as he walks through a busy street. Scenes like this were common in post-war Italy, where tradition and daily life blended seamlessly. Bread was not only food, but also a symbol of community and resilience. Queensland's interstate women's tennis team, 1908. In long skirts and broad hats, they pose with wooden rackets from the early lawn tennis era. Women's competition in Australia was expanding then, with interstate matches helping grow the sport. Just a few years earlier, in 1905, the Australasian Championships, precursor to today's Australian Open, had begun. Greta Garbo in Sweden, 1935. Already one of Hollywood's brightest stars, she returned home for a brief visit. Known for her mysterious aura and striking beauty, Garbo had become an international icon by then. Despite her fame, she remained deeply private, which only added to the fascination surrounding her life and career. Comics in the 1970s burst into the mainstream. Fans packed the first big conventions, and creators like Stan Lee helped turn Marvel heroes into pop culture. Stories grew bolder, tackling topics like politics, drug abuse, and identity. While new icons such as Wolverine and Spider-Woman joined Spider-Man, Captain America, and the Hulk. A veteran of the Red Army confronts an anti-communist protester in Moscow, 1990. The Soviet Union was in its final days, and the streets were filled with tension between defenders of the old system and those demanding change. For many veterans, the red flag symbolized sacrifice and victory, making these clashes deeply personal. In 1958, Sir David Attenborough entertained young Prince Charles and Princess Anne with a cockatoo named Cocky. Attenborough, then at the start of his television career, was already bringing the natural world closer to people. This charming moment shows the future broadcaster's gift for sparking curiosity and wonder in every generation. In 1977, singer Leo Sayer, known for his powerful voice and energetic performances, was at the height of his fame. Unlike many artists, Sayer remains one of the rare musicians who can still deliver with the same vocal strength decades later. His timeless hits and lasting talent have secured him a special place in music history. A Soviet firefighter in the 1930s stands in Red Square with St. Basil's in the background. He wears an early heat-resistant helmet and a hose-fed breathing mask used for industrial blazes and chemical smoke. Soviet fire brigades were partly militarized then, trained for city fires and civil defense emergencies across Moscow. May 1937, Texas. President Franklin D. Roosevelt meets 28-year-old Lyndon B. Johnson, introduced by Governor James Allred. Johnson had just won a special election to Congress that spring. The brief handshake linked two future presidents, FDR, architect of the New Deal, and LBJ, who decades later would pass the Great Society. Pancho Villa and Emiliano Zapata sit in the National Palace after their armies, Villa's División del Norte and Zapata's Ejército Libertador del Sur, marched into Mexico City on December 6, 1914. The moment was powerful and brief. The two leaders refused the presidency, posed in the chair, and soon returned to their regions and causes. George Lincoln Rockwell, leader of the American Nazi Party, based in Arlington, Virginia, sits stiffly at a Nation of Islam gathering in Washington, D.C., early 1960s. He often appeared at these meetings to push a message of racial separation. The moment is tense, sworn opponents sharing a room, each advancing very different visions of America. Atlantic City, September 8, 1921. Young women line up on the boardwalk for the first Miss America contest, then called the Intercity Beauty Pageant. It was created to keep tourists in town after Labor Day. The winner was 16-year-old Margaret Gorman of Washington, D.C., whose crown launched a long-running American tradition. Richard Nixon walks through the Ming tombs, visiting the resting place of the Wanli Emperor. It is February 1972, during his groundbreaking trip to China. Guided by Chinese officials, the American president studies centuries-old stone and lacquer. This visit helped open U.S.-China relations and became a key moment of Cold War diplomacy. Paris pauses under the Red Windmill. This is the Moulin Rouge around 1930, where Can-Can stars once kicked up storms. Opened in 1889, it survived a disastrous fire in 1915 and was rebuilt by 1921. In the interwar years, it mixed reviews with cinema, drawing locals and travelers to Montmartre nights. Endurance leans like a frozen skeleton, trapped in the Weddell Sea in 1915. Ernest Shackleton's ship would be crushed months later, yet every crewman survived. They camped on drifting ice, then sailed open boats to Elephant Island in South Georgia. Photographer Frank Hurley hauled glass plates, giving us this stark proof of courage. A sleek automobile rolls through one of New York's early automatic car washes in 1941. Rows of pipes spray water from every angle, a futuristic sight for drivers of the time. Car washes like this marked the beginning of a new convenience in city life, turning a once lengthy task into a quick, mechanical routine. A motorist pulls up to the Diamond Filling Station in Washington, D.C., 1920. The attendant pumps fuel by hand into an early touring car, spare tires strapped to the back. Stations like this were new then. America had fewer than 15,000, yet they powered road trips and the fast-growing car culture of the 1920s. June 28, 1997, MGM Grand, Las Vegas. Moments after Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear, police and security formed a wall around the ring. The fight, soon called the Bite Fight, ended in a disqualification. Tyson lost his boxing license for a time and was fined $3 million, a stunning night in sports. A customer sits beneath a 1928 permanent wave machine and a towering hairdryer. Dozens of heated rods curl each strand. That year, inventor Marjorie Joyner received the first U.S. patent for this perm device, used widely in Madame C.J. Walker-affiliated salons. It let curls last for months, beauty powered by electricity. Margaret Bourke White, one of the trailblazers of American photography, sits on the edge of the Chrysler Building in New York, 1930, captured by Oscar Grobner. Known for her daring spirit, she became the first female American war photojournalist and one of the first photographers for Life magazine, documenting history from dizzying heights to battlefronts. The Berlin Victory Parade in September 1945 marked the first public unveiling of the Soviet IS-3 heavy tank. With its low, rounded pike nose armor and powerful gun, the tank stunned the Allies. Its presence signaled Soviet strength and pushed Britain and the United States to accelerate the development of their own new heavy armor. Brad Pitt and Christina Applegate at the 1989 MTV VMAs. Long before they became household names, the two arrived together on the red carpet, embodying the vibrant energy of the late 80s. Pitt was still on the rise, while Applegate was already winning hearts with her breakout role on Married with Children. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on anything.